Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
There's something that you can practice that can make you feel grounded, more whole, more happy, just a better sense of well-being overall. What am I talking about? I'm talking about spirituality. What is it? And how do we get it? We're going to talk to somebody who is extremely spiritual, helps people all the time with their lives in general, their futures. She's somebody that she practices energy healing as well. And she's back with us. Ayana Kai is on the program. She's the Intuitive Oracle. Welcome. How are you?
Well, Steve, so excited to be on the show again this week. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Love having you on here. And I'm glad we're talking about this because I wrestled with this thing called spirituality back in the day, thinking that, oh, well, that's just, it's, religion, it's the spirit.
Right.
But it can be, but not necessarily so, right?
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that, right? Because I always kind of refer to myself as a spiritual being having a human experience, wherein other people may refer to themselves as human beings having a spiritual experience. And spirituality is actually a belief of comfort, a reflection of ethic. And I feel like it ties in with religion. And I'm looking over here because I actually looked up the definition. And it makes mention that spirituality involves the recognition of a feeling or sense or belief that there is something greater than myself, something more to being human than sensory experience, and that the greater whole of which we are a part of is cosmic or divine in nature. And so it's a belief that there's something greater than ourselves that we can connect to daily, moment by moment, to kind of expand our consciousness and experience a greater sense of nirvana, if you would, in our present moments. And that's what we're reaching for all the time. Happiness, it goes back to it. And here's the other thing, Steve, this kind of prompted me to this, right? This is some words that I kind of start my day off with. And I think I spoke to you about this last week when I made mention of some ascended masters and spiritual teachers, the works of Abraham under Jerry and Esther Hicks. And Abraham always says, joy is the key, right? Happiness is the way, is what I say. Happiness is the way. Joy is the key. Happiness is the way. Love is the answer. It's simple. But the rub is, how do we stay in alignment with those principles, which are the very purpose of our being, to connect with that higher consciousness? And that's where we need to transcend the ego, right?
I love what you said, all of that, especially when you said love is the answer, because isn't that the highest possible vibration you can ever experience?
Well, yeah, because in truth, we are pure love, pure joy, pure happiness, pure integrity, pure morality. And it resonates and it feels good. And that's when you are kind of connected to that higher consciousness, because you feel good, you feel elated, you feel nirvana, which is kind of what relates to the teachings of Buddha, right? Because he's always making reference to that nirvana. And when we talked last week about the spiritual enlightenment and or awakening, in so to speak, I made mention of experiencing that feeling of pure bliss, pure happiness, pure nirvana, if you would. It's almost, I hate to say this, but it is almost orgasmic, right? Because it's that much love. And that is how much God loves us. People try to think that God is like a mean thing. No, he's pure love. You have to experience purity. Pure love that's the key. So how do we get there? That's always the answer.
Well, love is the answer, but that's not the full answer. Yeah. You know what?
Joy is the key.
Before we even jump into that, I do want to share with you. There's a song that music pops in my head. That's
yes.
I'm wired that way.
Yes.
There's a song that came out in probably like 1977. Okay. It's called Love is the Answer. It was a top 10 song. I'm not kidding.
I
by
do.
two guys called England Dan and
Yeah.
John Ford Coley. It was a poppy, folksy kind of song. I'm gonna
Yeah.
read. I'm gonna read the chorus of the song. Again, this was a hit, big song. Light of the world, shine on me. Love is the answer. Shine on us all, set us free. Love is the answer. Can you imagine that was played on the radio? Like,
But what did we talk about when I said when the student is ready, the teacher will appear? So that could have been playing, but nobody was ready to receive.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now we're in this time of awakening, right? Where souls are everywhere now, kind of awakening to the truth of what's really going on here and stepping into their power and stepping into their greatness and co-creating with the universe. And it can't
Hmm.
get better than that.
Yeah. Now, what do you believe? I'm curious, in terms of your spirituality.
Well, I'd like to say first off, I'm not a religious person, but I will listen to some religious songs and such because they have this fake false premise of evil, if you would, where they make mention of a devil. And since God is love, I don't believe the God would create anything in that lower type of vibration. I feel like that's a man-made
Hmm.
precept, right?
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so that's why I don't buy into that. And because of my connection with the divine in terms of, like I always tell you, my life is a daily meditation, right? Because I'm
Hmm.
always connected to spirit. And so when you meditate, you experience nirvana, and anybody can do it, right? Because you raise your vibration because the universe is responding to your frequency. And as I mentioned, that's how you think and how you feel in every given moment. And nothing is more important than you feel good because in your feeling good, you're connecting with your higher self. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And when you're in connection with your higher self, it's co-creation at its best because now you're in your manifesting, right? Because now you're thinking about things, they're showing up in your experience. You're feeling good. You thought about some butterflies, you see a whole bunch of them. You know what I mean? But you have to be on the right frequency. So if you're on the frequency of anger, well, like I said before, the universe says, "Oh, you're angry about that. Here's something else for you to be angry about." And then you get caught up in that. And then you get, the law of attraction, which is another law that I think we touched on before,
Sure.
which is the law of that governs all thoughts, right? So you heard them say, like unto itself is drawn, right? So if you're angry, you go into the store, whatever, you see a whole bunch of people arguing, you know, because now you're on that channel. So all those type of angry things, they're now part of your experience, right? But you have to be consciously paying attention to what's going on. And that goes back to being awake or being asleep. And that goes back to, did you take the blue pill or the red pill? Are
Yeah.
you in the matrix or
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
you
Right.
like, you know
Right.
what I mean? Or are you kind of aware as to what's happening in life? And that's the whole thing. So you got to choose. And for me, you have to deliberately intend. And so what does that mean? Kind of set the intentions. And I feel like you do that because, I feel like you're intuitive and you do deliberately and consciously create your life. And so I feel like you deliberately intend, okay, today, when I wake up, I set intentions for the day. So today I'm going to feel good. This is going to happen, and then I watch it unfold. And that's co-creation at its best. And how do I get there? I consciously choose to feel good. And if I'm feeling bad, I know I'm out of alignment. And how do I know that? Because I know when you connect to your higher God self, you feel good. And so your higher self does not come down to the lower vibration of the ego, which I like to say is edging God out, right? Because it's like misery, anger, suffering, pain. When God is all the way at the top in love and light and joy and happiness and grace and peace
Now you
and
said ego.
appreciation.
Ayana, you said ego is if I heard it correctly, is a low vibration.
Well, I would say it's a veil. It's the separation between the subconscious and the conscious mind, right? And so we're transcending the ego. And when I made mention of edging God out, because God is always happy. Everybody, I mean, any enlightened being knows that God is always happy, right? So when you're miserable, you're not in alignment with your
Mm.
true God self, right? Which is your higher vibration, because you would always be feeling good. And so the ego is kind of the veil that separates, because we talked about this too last week, where we said, the smile on Buddha's face,
Right.
because everybody's looking for God outside of themselves, when the truth is God is within. And so remember, I said there's no God in the sky, but in meditation is when you come into connection. But you have to raise your vibration to get there. And so how do you get there? Thought by thought, by thought, by thought, by thought. But nobody wants to take this emotional journey of feeling good. They'd rather feel bad and
Because we're
then go
used
have
to
a
it.
drink. Well,
'Cause-
yeah, they'll say, oh, this happened. Let me go have a drink. And then when you wake up the next day, the same issue is still there because you didn't take the journey to rectify it. And that's like consciously creating what you want to manifest in this time space reality, if you would, you know what I mean, like in this moment in time. And so
Hmm.
that's consciously choosing to feel good, choosing to line up with what the thoughts that make sense that you want to experience in your life. You know what I mean? So look, I want to meet this new partner. He's going to have all these type of characteristics. I'm going to stay focused and in alignment with that so that I attract that in. And I know that my higher self is staying in that focus. And I know so because I feel good. If I'm not in alignment, I'm feeling bad, right? And so the goal is to stay in alignment regardless of what's going on. And that's the rub.
So I feel that there is a universe, and the
Yes,
universe supports us.
absolutely.
And it's what you put into the universe you're getting back. Um, I have a friend who says, and I try not to get very religious, I think in that territory, I'm kind of in a transition. I've made some changes in terms of what I do. Do I go to church? Yes. Do I go to the same church I went to a year or two ago? No. It made some
Okay.
changes. A friend of mine, when we have this discussion, she says, "Well, don't you get it? Don't you believe that? Who do you think created the universe? That's God."
Okay.
And I don't know. I just look at. I don't know what to think in that regard, but I do believe this is around us, supporting us. Whatever this could be, just energy floating out there.
But here's the thing, right? And this is deep, right? Okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you. All thoughts that ever existed still exist. And so what does that mean? That's the
Hmm.
universe. And
Okay.
so here's the universe is energy. What is thought? Thought is energy. What is energy? Spirit. Spirit, thought, energy, one and the same.
Hmm.
So if all thoughts that ever exist still exist, that is all encompassing of what you call God, the universe. Do you know how powerful that is? That is eternity. Like it's never ending. And I don't know if you've ever watched the movie The Secret. I think we talked about this before,
Long
by
time
Rhonda
ago.
Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is basically the premise of what's actually going on. But like I said, most people don't want to be happy and consciously create, with their true God self. And everybody, I like to say, everybody is a piece of God experiencing the whole. Because in truth, here's my belief, right? There's one universal mind that we're all a part of. And I believe that what we call God, source, okay? The universe, Jesus Christ, ascended masters, all those who have achieved enlightenment, but this big, magnificent, powerful source of energy, which is thought completely. And so you as a human being, you're really a thought, a spiritual being having a human experience. Your body, when you die, your body kind of goes back to the earth, but the soul kind of lives on because it's energy, right? So like I always use this example, and I got this from the teachings of Abraham. When you go into your room, you don't turn on the dark, you turn on the light, right?
Hmm.
The light switch. And so you're turning on the light because you are light. In meditation, you realize that you are light, and you realize the universe. You see it. You know what I'm saying? And you see what it is. It's thought. If you focus, it expands. What you think about shows you, like it reveals itself. And it's funny, I like to say, and I thought about this the other day when I was working on one of my new card decks. The universe, you and I verse. And so in truth, you communicate with the universe all day long. And so whether you're consciously or aware or not, it's still there. And you're still communicating with it daily, minute by minute, hour by hour, second by second, because everything is a vibration. And so that's what I mean by, I always say, thank you for my enlightenment. Thank you for my awakening, because in transcendence of the ego is where I've come to terms with understanding these very principles. And all these enlightened beings, Deepak Chopra, Rhonda Burns, Abraham, Eckhart Tolle, he talked about the new earth, the power of now. There's so many teachings, so many awakened beings subsequently since Buddha and Abraham and Jesus Christ that are basically saying the same principle. It's in the songs. The 1% of the population know this. The celebrities, the stars, the successful sports players, they're all doing the same thing. And that's why it's only 1% of the population that's awake. The rest of them are caught up in misbeliefs.
Why?
And that's why
I have to ask why. Why, when you have all of this before you,
right?
And it's been around forever. Seriously.
Yeah.
Why don't we accept it, gravitate to it, use it, understand it?
Well, because we'd rather have a drink.
Okay.
Or they'd rather use a drug. I don't know why because I say, why argue for your limitations? Which is why I'm so passionate about this, right? Because I like to heal the energy. And so when we spoke about when I do my readings, right? Well, how do I help these people? I can hear their energy just by what they're saying. I can see the negativity or if it's positive just by what they say, right? And so you kind of want to help people shift. Are you familiar with Wayne's Wire?
Sure.
The shift. He's been talking about that forever.
Right.
Right. And so when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And the other thing I kind of believe is that we came forth to experience ourselves, right? And so that's where the ego came in. But in this time of awakening, more and more souls are awakening to what's going on and now consciously creating and living a better life, if you would, right? And so that's the whole goal of it. That's why we have all these books, all these songs. Every song almost talks about it. There's a lot of songs that make reference to, I see it in my third eye. These are all spiritual things, right?
Where do we begin? Let's say somebody is watching, hearing this, and says, yeah, you know what? I've been thinking about that for a while. I'm going to do this. I need to make a change. Where would you suggest they start? Would it even just start with, okay, meditate, try that?
Absolutely. Because in meditation, you stop thought and focus on your breathing. And as you stop thought and focus on your breathing, your vibration goes higher and higher and higher. And as you lift yourself higher and higher and higher, now you're connecting to the universe, to the divine. And your body is your temple of worship, right? So yeah, you can go to church and pray, but you can pray in meditation. You can pray because God is within. And we talked about that. You said your affirmation last week, you said, everything I need is inside of me or within me, something along those lines.
Within me now.
And that's absolutely, that is absolutely right. And so you're going within. Most people go outside of themselves and think they're creating externally, and then nothing is happening for them. And then they're miserable, right? But instead of praying internally for what they want to experience externally, they'd be happier. And so they got it backwards.
What we're talking about today, the spirituality, some connected to religion, and sometimes some shy away from it because they feel that they're not religious. Now we get into prayer. What is prayer? A lot of us connect that to religion, but is it really?
But prayer is verse. right? What is verse? Talking, communicating.
That's what I'm saying.
So universe, you and I verse.
But when somebody hears
Universe.
a lot of people look at it in terms of a religious practice where I'm going to pray to God, but not necessarily, because it can also be I'm sending my prayers to you, prayers for your family. It's
Absolutely.
There's no religion connected. No, I have nothing to do with. I have no.
Right.
I'm fine with religion. I'm just saying there are people out there that shy away from these things because of these terms.
Because they
And
don't understand. But then
yeah,
therein lies the man-made precepts to control the masses. That's what I mean.
yeah,
That's what I mean. And that's where I go back to that false premise of the devil, right? Which God doesn't create negativity. Creation is spawned in positivity because God is a God of love. And when I make reference to God, I'm talking about the universe, source, God, whatever you line up
right.
with, pretty much. It's whatever verbiage, my Lord. A lot of people say my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It's whatever feeling of nirvana, enlightened belief in a higher consciousness. And the only reason I have a limitation with religion is the fact that there's rules. So depending on, are you non-denominational?
Myself,
Yeah,
I go to a Christian church.
you go to a Christian church. Okay, so there's Baptists, Christians,
Oh, yeah.
Jehovah
Yeah,
Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists. I mean, there's a myriad of them. Are you familiar with Joel Osteen?
100%.
I love Joel Osteen.
Sure.
And why do I love Joel Osteen more so? There's TD Jakes, because they're basically saying the same message. Joel is only talking about positivity and consciously creating. He's not getting caught up, oh, you can't wear makeup to church. It might have transcended, depending on the religion, right? Oh, you're not dressed properly. You can't wear um, jeans to church. You know what I mean?
You
So
remember
it's
though? You remember those days?
I remember that.
I show up in a t-shirt, and if that's not okay, I'm sorry. It's not a lack of respect. It's
Right.
we're
It's
just being ourselves. That's
That's
it.
it. And so
Yeah.
those are the man-made limitations wherein they try to control people, when in truth, you're just trying to pray. And here's the thing, right? Every prayer gets answered. So if you pray about lack, so let's say you don't have enough money, and I think we talked about this. And so they talk to somebody and they say, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. The universe says, oh, you don't have enough money? Here's more not having, right? And so two thoughts can't exist at the same time. And so either you're vibrating on the scale of having, or you're vibrating on the scale of not having. And so you get the mixture depending on where you spend your thoughts mostly. And so sometimes, there's this law, I forget what it's called, where you kind of have to fake it till you make it. You know what I mean? And so if you're in a space of lack, maybe you want to say, I'm so happy and grateful that I've come into all of this abundance. I love what this means for me and my family. This windfall of abundance means that now I can pay this. I can buy this new car. I can live here. I can do this. But people aren't consciously choosing to feel good. They'd rather stay in that misery. And here's the other thing, like where you made mention of people praying for somebody who's sick or something like that. There is no source of sickness. There is dis-ease, meaning out of alignment. So you're not thinking properly. You're not thinking and feeling properly, because there's no source of evil. There's no source of darkness. There's only a source of good. And so if your arm is hurting, you got some negativity going on. And so what do you need to do? Well, figure out what you need to change in your consciousness to bring it back up to love and light and happiness. And so your arm can start hurting.
Sure.
Stop hurting, if you would. You know what I mean?
Totally. Because look at any medical professional will tell you, even dealing with stress can bring a countless number of physical challenges to you. And that's
absolutely.
And why? Because you're out of alignment. You're out of alignment.
Much.
We're out of time.
Oh my
right
God,
now.
it goes too fast.
It really does. Learned a lot today. I got to tell you, how do we find you?
Oh my goodness. Well, as always, I tell you, I am on Pinterest under the Oracle 151. I have my website, theintuitive-oracle.com, theintuitiveone.org. I'm on Instagram, theintuitive137, and premium chat at The Intuitive Oracle. And you can reach me 914-826-7837. Yes. And I'm on Facebook under The Intuitive Oracle.
Great talking with you today.
I love you, Steve. You're the best.
Same. I just the insight, and I hope this, pulled the veil back for a lot of people to better understand
I hope so.
what's going on.
Every week we get deeper and deeper.
I know.
Before we know it, everybody's going to be awakened. Is that the goal? We might have love on the planet again.
Love is the answer.
It is. Joy is the key.
You got it. All right. We'll talk next time.
Happiness is the way. It's simple.
Just don't forget it. Just keep repeating it. All right.
You know what I say, Steve? Live it, be it, do it, say it. That's it.
That's it. It seriously is. I really do. I really mean that. It is. All right. Well, we'll catch up next time. Thank you so much.
You got it, Steve. Have a great weekend.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.